Ambassador Thelvax stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Harmonious Accord and watched the stars. His compound eyes reflected the cold light of deep space. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They had traveled for 3 weeks to reach this location, the edge of human-claimed territory, a place where no council ship had ventured before. "We are approaching the coordinates," said Navigator Finn, a small furred creature from the Velen species. His paws moved across his console with practiced ease. Thelvax nodded. His mandibles clicked together softly, a sign of his nervousness. The Galactic Council had sent him on this mission because he was known for his logic and diplomatic skill. He had negotiated treaties with dozens of species. But humans were different. They were new. Unknown. "Any sign of them?" Thelvax asked. "Not yet, Ambassador," replied Science Officer Pell. She floated in her water-filled sphere near the sensor station. Her tentacles danced across the controls. "The area appears empty." Security Chief Morvik grunted from his position near the weapons console. The large reptilian warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall. His scales gleamed under the bridge lights. "I do not like this. We should have brought more escort ships." 1. The Council wanted this meeting to appear peaceful, Thelvax reminded him. "We have 2 escort frigates. That should be sufficient." "Against primitives, perhaps," Morvik said. His eyes narrowed. "But humans have destroyed the Krell scouting fleet." "That concerns me." Thelvax had read the reports. 3 Krell ships had entered human space without permission. Only 1 escaped. The survivors spoke of weapons beyond their understanding, ships that moved in ways that defied physics. The Council had dismissed much of it as exaggeration, born from fear and defeat. "Sensor contact." Pell's voice cut through the tension. "Something just appeared at the edge of our range. It is massive." The main view screen changed. Where empty space had been moments before, something now existed. Thelvax felt his breathing stop. His mind struggled to process what he saw. The human warship hung in space like a piece of darkness given form. It stretched for kilometers, longer than any council vessel. But it was the design that disturbed Thelvax most. Council ships were elegant. They had smooth curves and beautiful symmetry. This thing had none of that. The human warship looked brutal, asymmetric. Sections jutted out at strange angles. Parts of the hull seemed to be different materials, as if the ship had been assembled from pieces that did not match. Some sections appeared metallic and angular. Other parts looked almost organic, with curves that reminded Thelvax of bones and muscle. "By the ancestors," whispered Finn. "What is that thing?" "Receiving transmission," said the communications officer. "Audio and visual." "Put it through," Thelvax ordered. He straightened his posture and tried to project calm confidence. The view screen split. Half still showed the monstrous warship. The other half now displayed a human face. The human was female, with dark hair pulled back from her face. Her skin was a warm brown color. Her eyes were alert and intelligent. "This is Captain G1 Park of the human vessel Eternal Sentinel," the woman said. Her voice was pleasant and professional. "Welcome to human space, Ambassador Thelvax. We have been expecting you." I.D. Reckoned, Thelvax noted that she used his name. They had done their research. "Captain Park, I am honored to make contact. I represent the Galactic Council. We come in peace to establish diplomatic relations with humanity." Captain Park smiled. The expression seemed genuine. "We appreciate that, Ambassador. We too desire peaceful relations with our galactic neighbors. Would you and your delegation do us the honor of coming aboard the Eternal Sentinel? We can conduct our negotiations here." Two. Thelvax felt his stomach tighten. Coming aboard a human vessel? In their territory? It seemed dangerous. But refusing would be seen as insulting. Weakness. "We accept your invitation, Captain," Thelvax said. "We will prepare a shuttle immediately." "Excellent. We will transmit docking coordinates. I look forward to meeting you in person. The transmission ended. Morvik moved close to Thelvax. His voice was low. Ambassador, this is unwise. We should insist they come to us. And appear afraid? Thelvax replied quietly. No. We must show strength. Besides, we have 2 escort frigates and full sensor coverage. If anything goes wrong, our ships can extract us. Pell drifted closer in her sphere. Ambassador, I am detecting unusual readings from their vessel. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database, and there are biological components mixed with the technological ones. Parts of that ship appear to be alive. Alive? Finn's voice cracked with stress. How can a ship be alive? Just wah. I do not know, Pell admitted, but my sensors are clear. Organic tissue, integrated throughout the structure. Thelvax made his decision. Fear would not stop him from doing his duty. Prepare the shuttle. Morvik, you will accompany me with a security team. Pell, you as well. I want scientific observations. Finn, you have command while we are gone. If we do not return within 6 hours, contact the Council and leave this system immediately. Yes, Ambassador, Finn said quietly. 20 minutes later, Thelvax sat in the diplomatic shuttle with his team. Morvik had brought 4 armed guards. Pell floated in her portable sphere. 2 junior diplomats from other species completed the delegation. They launched from the Harmonious Accord and approached the human warship. As they drew closer, Thelvax saw more disturbing details. The hull was not static. It moved. Slowly. Almost like breathing. Panels shifted slightly, and what looked like veins pulsed beneath the surface in some areas. The ship was not just alive, it was watching them. This is wrong, Morvik muttered. No ship should look like this. The shuttle entered a docking bay that could have swallowed their entire diplomatic vessel. Lights guided them to a landing platform. Through the viewport, Thelvax saw the interior of the bay. It was vast, empty except for a few smaller craft. And like the exterior, the walls seemed to shift and breathe. The shuttle settled onto the platform. Thelvax stood and straightened his diplomatic robes. Remember, we are here as representatives of the Council. Show no fear. Show respect, but not submission. The shuttle door opened. Thelvax stepped out into the human warship. The air was breathable, cool, and slightly humid. He saw a delegation of humans waiting for them. Captain Park stood at the front, wearing a dark uniform with minimal decoration. Beside her was another human, taller and broader, with pale skin and short blonde hair. Ambassador Thelvax, Captain Park said warmly. She made a gesture that Thelvax recognized from his briefing as a greeting. Welcome aboard the Eternal Sentinel. I am Captain Park, and this is Commander Sarah Chen, my first officer. Thelvax returned the gesture as best he could with his different anatomy. Thank you for your hospitality, Captain. As the pleasantries continued, Thelvax noticed something that made his skin crawl. The humans were calm, completely calm. No nervousness. No excitement at meeting alien species for the first time. They acted as if this was routine, and in the background, barely visible in the shadows of the vast bay, Thelvax saw movement. The walls themselves seemed to pulse, to watch. What had humanity built, and what had the Council gotten itself into? Captain Park led the delegation deeper into the Eternal Sentinel. Thelvax walked beside her, trying to maintain his diplomatic composure. Behind him, he heard Morvik's heavy footsteps and the quiet hum of Pell's sphere. The corridors were wide and tall, much taller than necessary for humans. The walls had that same unsettling quality as the docking bay. Metal mixed with something that looked like living tissue. In some places, Thelvax could see what looked like veins beneath a transparent surface. They pulsed with a faint, blue light. Your ship is quite unique, Captain, Thelvax said carefully. I have never seen such architecture. Captain Park smiled. The Eternal Sentinel uses biomechanical integration, part machine, part living organism. It allows the ship to self-repair, adapt to damage, and respond to threats more efficiently than purely mechanical systems. Biomechanical? Pell spoke up from her sphere. Captain, my sensors indicate extensive organic neural networks throughout the vessel. The ship has a nervous system. In a manner of speaking, yes, Commander Chen replied. She walked on Captain Park's other side. The ship can sense damage and redirect resources to repair itself. It learns from experience. In some ways, you could say the Eternal Sentinel is alive. Morvik made a low growling sound. This is not natural. Ships should not be alive. Perhaps not in your experience, Security Chief, Captain Park said without offense. But humanity has found that combining organic and mechanical systems creates superior results. Nature spent billions of years perfecting certain designs. We simply learned from it. They passed a group of human crew members. Thelvax studied them carefully. They wore simple uniforms in dark blue and gray. They moved with purpose and efficiency. What struck Thelvax most was their diversity. Different skin colors, different facial structures, different body types. Yet they worked together seamlessly. One crew member nodded respectfully to the delegation as they passed. Thelvax noticed the human carried a tool that looked like it was both mechanical and biological. The device seemed to pulse in the human's hand. How many crew members serve aboard the Eternal Sentinel? Thelvax asked. Currently about 3,000, Captain Park replied. Though the ship can operate with as few as 500 in emergency situations. Thelvax did mental calculations. For a ship this size, that was remarkably few. Council vessels of similar dimensions required at least 10,000 crew. Either humans had incredible automation, or something else was happening. They entered a lift that took them up several levels. The walls of the lift were partially transparent. As they rose, Thelvax caught glimpses of other corridors, work areas, and vast chambers whose purpose he could not guess. Where are we going, Captain? One of the junior diplomats asked nervously. I thought you might appreciate a tour before we begin formal negotiations, Captain Park said. It helps to understand each other better. First, we will visit our medical facilities, then, perhaps the training areas and some of our research laboratories. The lift stopped and the doors opened. They emerged into a bright, clean corridor. The walls here were mostly white, with blue accents. The organic components were less visible, though Thelvax could still feel them beneath the surface. Captain Park led them through a set of doors into a medical bay. The room was large and filled with equipment. Beds lined the walls. Strange machines hummed quietly. Several human medical personnel worked at various stations. This is Medical Bay 3, Commander Chen explained. We have 5 medical facilities throughout the ship. Each one can handle major trauma and perform advanced surgical procedures. Pell drifted closer to one of the machines. Her tentacles twitched with curiosity. Captain, this device is reading cellular structures at the molecular level, and this one appears to be capable of regenerating tissue. These are far beyond council medical technology. A human doctor approached. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Would you like a demonstration? She asked. Captain Park nodded. The doctor moved to a containment unit and retrieved what looked like a piece of damaged synthetic flesh. She placed it in one of the machines. The device activated with a soft hum. Before their eyes, the damaged tissue began to repair itself. Cells regrew. The damage disappeared. This process works on living tissue as well, the doctor explained. We can repair injuries that would be fatal with traditional medicine. Burns, severed limbs, organ damage, even certain types of neural trauma. Thelvax felt cold despite the comfortable temperature. How long have humans possessed this technology? Regenerative medicine has been in development for about 70 years, Captain Park said. We have made significant advances in the last 2 Decades. Morvik stepped forward. His large frame cast a shadow over the demonstration. You say you can repair anything? Even combat injuries? Most combat injuries, yes, the doctor replied. There are limits, of course. But a soldier who would have died on any other ship has a good chance of survival here. The implications settled over the delegation like a weight. Human soldiers did not just have advanced weapons. They had advanced medicine to keep them fighting. Come, Captain Park said. There is more to see. They left the medical bay and continued through the ship. Captain Park showed them hydroponic sections where food was grown, recycling systems that could reclaim nearly everything, engineering spaces where maintenance drones worked alongside human technicians. In one section, they observed a training area. Human soldiers practiced combat techniques. Thelvax watched as they moved through exercises with weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Their movements were precise and controlled, efficient, no wasted motion. Your soldiers train extensively, Morvik observed. Every day, Commander Chen confirmed. Physical conditioning, weapons training, tactical simulations. We believe that preparation prevents problems. One soldier practiced with a weapon that caught Thelvax's attention. It looked like a rifle, but he could see multiple settings and configurations. The soldier adjusted something and the weapon changed form slightly. That weapon has multiple functions, Pell observed. Energy and kinetic. Adaptive ammunition. Standard issue for our security forces, Captain Park said simply. They moved on. Thelvax's mind raced with calculations. Everything he had seen suggested humanity was far more advanced than initial reports indicated. Their technology in medicine, weapons, and ship design exceeded Council standards in many areas. But it was when they reached the observation deck that Thelvax saw something that truly frightened him. The deck had large windows that looked out into space. From here, he could see the exterior of the Eternal Sentinel stretching in both directions, and he could see the weapons, massive cannons built into the hull, launch tubes for missiles or torpedoes, energy projectors that crackled with barely contained power, defensive systems that bristled from every surface. The ship was not just a vessel. It was a fortress, a weapon itself. Captain Park, Thelvax said slowly, this ship is far more than a diplomatic vessel. The Eternal Sentinel is a warship. Ambassador, Captain Park replied honestly. We have never claimed otherwise. But it is also the best place for us to demonstrate humanity's capabilities. We believe in transparency. We. Transparency, Morvik repeated. He moved to the window and stared at the weapons. You show us your claws to make us afraid. No, Security Chief, Commander Chen said. We show you our strength so that you will respect us. There is a difference. No. Thelvax looked out at the stars beyond the warship. In the distance, he could see the lights of the Harmonious Accord. His ship looked small and fragile compared to the human vessel. What is the purpose of this ship? Thelvax asked quietly. Captain Park stood beside him at the window. The Eternal Sentinel serves as a deterrent, Ambassador. Its purpose is to make certain that anyone who considers attacking humanity thinks very carefully before doing so. A deterrent, Thelvax said. By being overwhelming. Exactly, Captain Park agreed. Thelvax turned to face her. And how many ships like this does humanity have? Captain Park's smile was polite but revealed nothing. That, Ambassador, is a question for later discussions. For now, let us continue the tour. There is still much more to see. As they left the observation deck, Thelvax felt the weight of what he had witnessed. The Council had sent him to negotiate with what they thought was a young, primitive species. Instead, he had found something else entirely. Something powerful. Something that had been preparing for this moment. And the tour was not yet finished. Captain Park led the delegation to a secure section of the ship. 2 armed guards stood at the entrance. They saluted as the group approached. One guard scanned each member of the delegation with a handheld device before allowing them through. Security protocols, Commander Chen explained. What you are about to see is sensitive information. We share it in the spirit of diplomatic transparency. But we must be careful. They entered a corridor that descended deeper into the ship. The lighting here was dimmer. The organic components in the walls pulsed more visibly. Thelvax felt like he was walking into the belly of some great beast. Where are you taking us? Morvik asked. His hand rested near his sidearm. To our weapons testing and demonstration range, Captain Park replied. You have seen our medical capabilities and our training facilities. Now we will show you what the Eternal Sentinel can do when faced with a threat. The corridor opened into an enormous chamber. It stretched hundreds of meters in every direction. One side had a viewing gallery behind thick, transparent barriers. The other side had multiple firing positions and target areas. Several human technicians worked at control stations. They looked up as the delegation entered, then returned to their work. A tall human male with dark skin approached. He wore the insignia of a weapons officer. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, he introduced himself. I will be conducting today's demonstration. Please, take positions in the viewing gallery. The delegation filed into the gallery. Through the transparent barrier, they had a clear view of the testing range. At the far end, several target drones materialized. They moved and shifted, creating a dynamic target environment. We will begin with basic kinetic weapons, Webb announced. He moved to a firing position and picked up what looked like a standard rifle. This is a standard infantry weapon. Fully adjustable power settings. He aimed at a target and fired. The weapon made a sharp crack. The target drone sparked, but remained functional. That was set to stun, Webb explained. Sufficient to incapacitate most species temporarily. He adjusted a control on the weapon and fired again. This time, the target exploded into fragments. That was set to lethal, standard combat setting. He adjusted the weapon once more. The next shot completely vaporized a target. Nothing remained but dissipating energy. And that was set to maximum. We call it atomize mode. Thelvax felt his mandibles tighten. One weapon with 3 distinct power levels. From non-lethal to complete destruction. Now, energy weapons. Webb continued. He set down the rifle and picked up a different device. This one glowed with internal power. Plasma projector. It can adjust frequency and intensity. He demonstrated. The weapon fired bolts of superheated plasma that melted targets. But then he showed how it could create a wide dispersal field, or focus into a cutting beam, or pulse in waves. The advantage of energy weapons is their adaptability, Webb explained. We can configure them for specific situations or specific targets. Pell's voice came through her sphere's speaker. Specific targets? You mean specific species? Webb paused and looked at Captain Park. She nodded. Webb continued. Yes, Science Officer Pell. Our weapons can be configured to target specific biological systems. For example, Keltharian neural structures respond to certain frequencies. Draknor regeneration can be suppressed with particular energy patterns. Aquatic species physiology has weaknesses to specific molecular disruption. The silence in the viewing gallery was absolute. Thelvax felt his heart's race. His species had been named. The humans had studied them, had developed weapons specifically designed to counter Keltharian biology. Morvik's scales rippled with barely controlled anger. You have designed weapons to kill each council species specifically. To counter each species, yes, Commander Chen corrected. Not necessarily to kill. Remember, our weapons have non-lethal settings as well, but yes, we have studied the known species of the galaxy and developed appropriate countermeasures. Why? Demanded one of the junior diplomats. Why would you do this if you claim to want peace? Captain Park turned to face the delegation. Her expression was serious, but not hostile. Because we are not fools. Ambassador. We emerged into a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. civilizations that have been spacefaring for thousands of years while we are newcomers. It would be foolish not to prepare for the possibility that some of those civilizations might be hostile. The Krell were hostile, Commander Chen added. They entered our space without permission and fired upon our colony ships. We had to defend ourselves. So you destroyed them, Morvik said. We defended ourselves, Captain Park repeated firmly. And in doing so, we learned. We learned that the galaxy can be dangerous. We learned that we needed to be ready. Armai. Webb continued the demonstration. He showed them smart munitions that could pursue targets through obstacles, missiles that could adapt their flight patterns based on enemy defensive maneuvers, mines that could remain dormant until specific conditions triggered them. Each weapon was more sophisticated than the last. Each one represented a level of technology that matched or exceeded Council military capabilities. Now, let me show you something particularly interesting, Webb said. He gestured to a technician who activated a holographic display. It showed schematics of various alien species. Thelvax recognized his own species among them. These are profiles we have developed, Webb explained. For each known species, we have identified biological strengths and weaknesses, optimal engagement ranges, psychological factors that might affect combat performance, environmental preferences, and vulnerabilities. The hologram cycled through species after species. Keltharians, Draknor, Velen, aquatic species, crystalline entities, energy beings. Every species in the Council had been analyzed, studied, catalogued. This is an invasion plan, Thelvax said quietly. You have prepared to fight us all. This is a defense plan, Captain Park corrected. There is a critical difference, Ambassador. We have no interest in invading Council space. We have no desire to conquer your worlds. But if someone chooses to attack humanity, we will be ready. You cannot believe that showing us this will make us less afraid of you, Morvik growled. On the contrary, Security Chief, Commander Chen replied. We are showing you this specifically so you will understand. Humanity does not believe in fair fights. We do not believe in honorable combat where both sides have equal chances. We believe in overwhelming advantage. We believe in preparation so thorough that the enemy is defeated before the battle even begins. Webb activated another display. This one showed various Council weapons and defensive systems. Again, Thelvax recognized technology from his own people. We have analyzed your weapons as well, Webb continued. We know how they work. We know their effective ranges, their power requirements, their weaknesses. We have developed countermeasures for each one, he demonstrated. Holographic simulations showed Council weapons firing at human ships. Each time, the human vessel adapted, defended, or simply absorbed the attack with minimal damage. This is impossible, one of the junior diplomats whispered. You cannot have prepared for everything. Not everything, Captain Park admitted. But we have prepared for every known threat. And our systems are designed to learn and adapt to unknown threats. That is the advantage of biomechanical integration. The Eternal Sentinel can evolve in response to danger. Thelvax's mind worked through the implications. Humanity had not just built weapons. They had built an entire philosophy of warfare based on absolute preparation and overwhelming superiority. They did not seek equal combat. They sought to make combat impossible for their enemies to win. There is one more thing you should see, Webb said. He led them from the viewing gallery to an adjacent room. This room was smaller, more secure. Inside were weapon systems in storage racks, but these looked different from the others. More complex, more dangerous. Webb stopped at one particular weapon. It was cylindrical, about a meter long, covered in warning labels. This is what we call a planet buster, he said quietly. A weapon designed to disrupt the geological stability of a planet's core. One of these, properly deployed, can render a world uninhabitable. The room felt colder. Thelvax stared at the weapon. You have weapons that can destroy planets. We have had such weapons for centuries, Ambassador, Captain Park said. Long before we reached space, we developed them when we fought among ourselves. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons. We built terrible things during our wars. And you still have them, Pell observed. Yes, Captain Park confirmed. We disarmed most of them during our unification. But we kept the knowledge. And when we reached space, we built new versions, more efficient, more powerful. Because we learned something from our bloody history. What did you learn? Thelvax asked. Captain Park met his gaze. We learned that the weapons you never use are the most powerful ones. We built these terrible things not to use them, but to ensure no one would ever force us to use them. Deterrence, Ambassador. That is the purpose of the Eternal Sentinel. That is the purpose of everything you have seen today. Morvik shook his head. This is not deterrence. This is madness. You have built weapons that could destroy civilizations. Yes, Commander Chen agreed. And in 5,000 years of galactic civilization, how many species have the Council destroyed? How many wars have been fought? Known. Thelvax knew the answer. Dozens of species had been wiped out in Council conflicts. Hundreds of wars, large and small. The galaxy was not peaceful. It was simply organized under Council rule. We have, Chen continued, in our short history, already learned what you have known for millennia. Power without the will to use it responsibly is useless. So we built power, and we built restraint. Both are necessary. Captain Park gestured to the exit. Come, Ambassador. There is still more of the ship to see. And then, we can discuss what kind of relationship humanity and the Council might have. As they left the weapons demonstration area, Thelvax felt the weight of what he had witnessed. Humanity had shown them weapons beyond Council technology. They had revealed detailed knowledge of Council species and capabilities. They had demonstrated terrible power, and they had done it all calmly, professionally, without aggression or threat. That was perhaps most frightening of all. The delegation followed Captain Park through a series of secure corridors. Each checkpoint required authorization. Each door was guarded. Thelvax realized they were being taken to the heart of the ship, the central command structure. The areas you are about to enter are normally restricted to senior command staff only, Captain Park explained. We are making an exception for this delegation. What you see must be shared with the Council, but we ask for discretion. You have our word, Captain, Thelvax replied, though he wondered what could be more disturbing than what they had already witnessed. They entered a massive spherical chamber. The delegation stepped onto a platform that extended into the center of the sphere. All around them, holographic displays floated in three-dimensional space. Dozens of human officers worked at stations arranged in rings around the platform. Thelvax looked around in amazement. The displays showed star maps of the entire galaxy, shipping routes, planetary systems, fleet positions, and not just human information. He saw markers for Council worlds, military installations, trade hubs, everything. This is the command center of the Eternal Sentinel, Commander Chen announced. From here, we can coordinate every system on the ship. We can also monitor activity throughout this region of space. Pell drifted closer to one display. Her tentacles trembled. Captain, these readouts show real-time intelligence on Council military positions, fleet deployments, defense station locations. How do you have this information? 1. Captain Park's expression remained neutral. We have been observing, Science Officer, watching and learning. When we first reached space and encountered the Council's edge territories, we realized we needed to understand our neighbors. So we watched. We listened. We analyzed public broadcasts, monitored communications, tracked ship movements. You have been spying on us, Morvik stated flatly. We have been gathering intelligence, Commander Chen corrected. Just as we assume the Council has been gathering intelligence about us, This is what civilizations do when they encounter unknowns. Thelvax moved closer to a display showing his home system. The detail was extraordinary. Population centers, industrial facilities, defensive installations, even the locations of the Council diplomatic fleet. Everything was marked and catalogued. "You know everything about us," he said quietly. "Not everything," Captain Park replied. "But we know enough. We know your military capabilities, your economic structures, your political relationships, your strengths and your vulnerabilities." A junior officer approached Captain Park and saluted. "Captain," the ambassador asked, "about our observational capabilities. Should I bring up the surveillance network display?" Captain Park considered for a moment, then nodded. The central holographic display changed. Now it showed a web of connections spanning dozens of star systems. Small markers indicated sensor stations, monitoring posts, and observation platforms. "These are our listening posts," the lieutenant explained. "We have been placing them throughout this region for the past 10 years. They monitor communications, track ship movements, and collect data on everything that happens in Council space near human territory." 10 years, Thelvax repeated. "You have been planning this for 10 years. Planning what, Ambassador?" Captain Park asked. "We have no plans to attack the Council. We have been planning to survive in a galaxy where we are newcomers, where we are outnumbered and unknown. Knowledge is survival." Quote, Morvik's patience finally broke. "You speak of survival, but all I see are preparations for war. You have weapons designed to kill us. Intelligence on all our worlds. Military capability far beyond what you have admitted to the Council. Tell me, Captain, are you planning to invade?" Captain Park turned to face Morvik directly. Her expression was serious. "Security. Chief Morvik, I will answer your question honestly. Humanity has no plans to invade Council space. We have no desire to conquer your worlds or subjugate your species. What we desire is security. We want to know that no one can threaten us, that no one can destroy us. After what happened with the Krell, we decided we would never again be vulnerable. The Krell attacked you because you were in their territory," one of the junior diplomats pointed out. "The Krell attacked us because they thought we were weak," Commander Chen countered. "Because they believed they could destroy our ships and claim our colonies without consequence. They were wrong, and we have made certain that no one else will make that same mistake." Captain Park gestured to the displays around them. "Everything you see here serves one purpose: to make humanity impossible to attack, not through aggression, but through preparation. Not through threats, but through demonstrated capability. What you call preparation, we call an arms race," Thelvax said. "When the Council learns of this, they will feel threatened. They will increase their own military capabilities. Other species will do the same. You risk destabilizing the entire region." "We considered that possibility," Captain Park admitted. "That is why we are showing you all of this. We are being transparent about our capabilities, specifically to prevent an arms race." "How does showing us your weapons prevent a race to build more weapons?" Pell asked, confused. Commander Chen answered. "Because we are showing you capabilities you cannot match. At least, not without centuries of development and resources you cannot afford to spend. We are being honest with you about the gap between human and Council military technology. We are hoping that honesty will prevent futile attempts to achieve parity." "You are trying to intimidate us into submission," Morvik growled. "No, Security Chief," Captain Park said firmly. "We are trying to establish mutual respect based on honest assessment. We respect the Council's history, its governance, its accomplishments. We ask that you respect our strength and our determination to remain free and secure." Thelvax felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He had come to negotiate with what the Council believed was a primitive species. Instead, he had found a civilization that was in some ways more advanced than the Council itself. A civilization that had been quietly preparing for this moment. Captain Park, I must ask you something directly, Thelvax said. What is the purpose of the Eternal Sentinel? Not just as a warship, but as a symbol. What message are you sending? Captain Park was quiet for a moment. Then she gestured to one of the officers. Lieutenant, show them the fleet display. The holographic image changed again. Now it showed local space around their current position. The Eternal Sentinel was clearly marked. But as Thelvax watched, other markers appeared. One, then another, then more. Dozens of ships appearing on the display, all of them surrounding the Eternal Sentinel's position. These are other human vessels, the lieutenant explained. Warships of various classes. They have been in this area the entire time, monitoring the situation. Morvik stared at the display. You had us surrounded from the beginning. We had you protected, Captain Park corrected, or observed, depending on how this meeting went. But yes, you have been within range of a significant human military presence. This entire time, Thelvax felt something close to fear, not panic, but deep concern. How many ships does humanity have? That information is classified, Commander Chen replied. But I can tell you that the Eternal Sentinel is not unique. We have multiple vessels of this class. We have many smaller warships. We have defensive stations around every human colony. We have built a military that can defend our territory against any foreseeable threat. Any threat, Thelvax repeated, including the entire Council fleet. If necessary, Captain Park said quietly. We hope it will never be necessary. That is the point, Ambassador. The Eternal Sentinel exists so that it will never have to fire its weapons in anger. It exists to make certain that anyone considering attacking humanity will look at our capabilities and decide that peace is a better option. Captain Park led them from the command center to another section. This area had a different feeling, more somber, more serious. They entered what looked like a detention facility, but unlike any prison Thelvax had ever seen. These are our containment sections, Commander Chen explained, designed to hold and neutralize hostile entities of any type. Each cell can simulate different environments, can nullify various abilities, can contain everything from physical beings to energy entities. Morvik examined one of the cells. Why do you need such facilities on a warship? Because the Eternal Sentinel is designed for long-term independent operation, Captain Park replied. It may need to contain prisoners or hostile specimens. It may need to protect the crew from unknown threats. These systems ensure we can handle any situation. They moved through the containment area. Each cell was different. Some were standard cells with force fields. Others were environmental chambers that could simulate any atmosphere or pressure. Some were energy containment systems for non-corporeal beings. Some were biological isolation units. You have prepared for everything, Pell observed with what sounded like horrified awe. We have tried to, Commander Chen agreed. The galaxy is vast and full of unknowns. The Eternal Sentinel represents humanity's determination to be ready for whatever we might encounter. They reached a final section. Here, the walls were heavily reinforced. Warning signs in multiple languages covered every surface. What is this area? Thelvax asked. Emergency containment, Captain Park said. For worst-case scenarios. If something were to breach all other security measures, this is the final barrier. These cells can contain almost anything. She paused, then continued. But more importantly, this section illustrates something fundamental about the Eternal Sentinel's design. This ship is not just a weapon. It is an ark. It is designed to survive independently for decades if necessary, to sustain its crew and its mission, no matter what happens. How? Asked one of the junior diplomats. How can one ship operate alone for decades? The biomechanical systems, Pell said suddenly, understanding. The organic components can grow, can reproduce. The ship can sustain itself. Exactly, Commander Chen confirmed. The Eternal Sentinel can grow its own food through advanced hydroponics, can recycle all waste products, can repair any damage given time, can even clone replacement crew members if casualties become severe. And the biological components, Pell continued, her voice trembling. They are derived from human DNA. The ship is built from human genetic material. It is literally part human. In a sense, Captain Park said. Though calling it human would be inaccurate. It is something new. Something we created by combining technology and biology in ways never attempted before. Morvik turned to Captain Park. His expression was grim. Captain, I asked you earlier how long this ship could operate alone. You said you would answer later. I ask again now. How long could the Eternal Sentinel survive without resupply or support? Captain Park met his gaze steadily. Indefinitely, Security Chief. Given time to repair, adapt, and sustain itself, the Eternal Sentinel could operate alone for centuries. Perhaps longer. We designed it that way deliberately. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Thelvax understood what that meant. The humans had built a ship that could outlast empires. A vessel that could wage a war alone. For generations. If necessary. This is not a warship, Thelvax said softly. This is a doomsday vessel. This is a deterrent, Captain Park replied. The ultimate deterrent. Captain Park led the delegation to one final location. The observation deck. It was a vast room with enormous windows that looked out into space. The view was breathtaking and terrible at the same time. From here, they could see the full scope of the Eternal Sentinel. The massive warship stretched for kilometers in both directions. Its hull pulsed with that unsettling organic quality. Weapon systems dotted every surface. It looked like a predator waiting in the darkness. But what made Thelvax's breath catch was what else he could see. In the distance, other shapes moved against the stars. More human warships. Dozens of them. They had been there the entire time, hidden in the vastness of space. Please, sit, Captain Park offered. There were seats arranged near the windows. The delegation sat, though Morvik remained standing, his hand still near his weapon. Captain Park stood before the windows, her silhouette dark against the stars. Ambassador Thelvax, you came here to establish diplomatic relations with humanity, to determine what kind of neighbor we would be. I hope this tour has provided answers to your questions. It has raised far more questions than it has answered. Thelvax replied honestly. Captain Park, I must be direct with you. What I have seen today is terrifying. Your technology, your weapons, your planning. The Council will view humanity as a threat. A serious threat. 1. I understand, Captain Park said. That is why we showed you everything. That is why we have been transparent. Because we need the Council to understand something fundamental about humanity. She turned to face the delegation. We do not build ships like the Eternal Sentinel to win wars. We build them so that wars never happen. We do not create weapons to use them. We create them so that they will never need to be used. Commander Chen stepped forward. Ambassador, let me tell you about human history. For thousands of years, we fought among ourselves, nation against nation, ideology against ideology, race against race. We built terrible weapons and used them on each other. Nuclear weapons that could destroy cities. Biological weapons that could kill millions. Chemical weapons that caused unspeakable suffering. She paused, her expression pained. We learned the hard way about the cost of war. We learned what happens when civilizations fight without restraint. And eventually, we learned something important. The most effective weapon is the one you never have to fire. The concept is called deterrence. Captain Park continued. You make yourself so strong, so capable, so prepared, that no rational enemy would ever attack you. Not because you have threatened them, but because they understand that attacking you would be futile. But deterrence only works if the other side believes your threats, Morvik pointed out. Which is why we have shown you our capabilities, Commander Chen replied. We are not threatening the Council. We are informing you. This is what humanity can do. This is what we have prepared. Not to attack you, but to ensure that no one can successfully attack us. Thelvax stood and approached the window. He looked out at the Eternal Sentinel, at the other warships in the distance. Captain, the Council has existed for thousands of years. We have rules, protocols, systems for managing conflicts between species. What you are proposing disrupts all of that. Does it? Captain Park asked. Or does it simply add a new element to the equation? The Council has its rules because strong species agreed to follow them. We are simply demonstrating that humanity is strong enough to negotiate as equals. Equals? One of the junior diplomats laughed bitterly. You show us weapons that surpass our technology and call it equality? Yes, Captain Park said firmly, because true equality is not about everyone having the same capabilities. It is about everyone having enough capability to ensure their voice is heard and their rights are respected. Humanity does not want to dominate the Council. We want to join it as partners, not subjects. Pell spoke up from her sphere. Captain Park, I must ask a difficult question. What you have built here, the Eternal Sentinel and ships like it, they could be used for conquest. How do we know you will not use them that way? Captain Park was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, You cannot know. Not with certainty. Just as we cannot know with certainty that the Council will never turn against us. Trust must be earned over time. What I can tell you is this. Humanity has had weapons capable of destroying planets for centuries. We have never used them against each other. Despite our conflicts, we learned restraint. We learned it the hard way, Commander Chen added. Through bitter experience. Through seeing what happens when power is used. Without wisdom. We carry that history with us. It shapes everything we do. Morvik moved closer to Captain Park. You keep speaking of deterrence and restraint, but I see preparation for war. Detailed plans to fight every Council species. That is not defensive thinking. That is offensive planning. Security Chief, answer me honestly. Captain Park replied. Does the Council have war plans for various scenarios? Does it have strategies for dealing with potential conflicts? Does it prepare for possibilities even if it hopes they never occur? Morvik did not answer. Which was answer enough. Preparation is not aggression, Captain Park continued. We have prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. That is not a threat. That is responsibility. Thelvax turned from the window. Captain Park, Commander Chen, I understand what you are trying to convey. But you must understand the position this puts the Council in. When I report what I have seen, there will be fear. There will be voices calling for a military response. There will be species that demand we match your capabilities. We anticipated that, Captain Park acknowledged. That is why we are being so open with you. We want the Council to understand that matching our capabilities would be prohibitively expensive and would take decades or even centuries. We want you to understand that such an arms race would bankrupt your civilizations while achieving nothing. So we should simply accept human military superiority? Asked a junior diplomat. You should accept reality, Commander Chen replied. Humanity has invested enormous resources into our military capabilities. We have focused our scientific advancement on defense and survival. We have made choices that other species chose not to make. That has given us advantages in certain areas. But we lack advantages in other areas. We are young. We have limited territory. We have much to learn from older civilizations. Captain Park nodded. We are not asking the Council to surrender or submit. We are asking for recognition and respect. We want diplomatic relations as equals. We want trade agreements. We want cultural exchange. We want to be partners in galactic civilization. Partners who cannot be threatened, Morvik said. Partners who will not be threatened, Captain Park corrected. There is a difference, Security Chief. We are not demanding special treatment. We are insisting on fair treatment. We are saying that humanity's voice will be heard and our rights will be respected. The Eternal Sentinel exists to ensure that. Thelvax moved back to his seat. His mind was overwhelmed with everything he had seen and heard. Captain, there is one question that troubles me more than any other. You have shown us weapons that could destroy planets. You have admitted you have had such weapons for centuries. Have you ever used them? Have you ever destroyed a world? Captain Park met his gaze. Yes, Ambassador. We have used nuclear weapons. During our own wars. Before we unified. 2 cities were destroyed. Hundreds of thousands died. That was nearly 400 years ago. We have never used such weapons since. Why not? Pell asked. If you possess such power, why never use it? Because we learned what happens when you do, Commander Chen said quietly. We saw the horror, the suffering, the long-term consequences. We realized that some weapons are too terrible to ever use, so we made a choice. We would keep these weapons as deterrents, but we would never use them again. That is the burden we carry. Captain Park walked to the center of the observation deck. That is what you need to understand about humanity. We have the capability for terrible destruction. We have weapons that could lay waste to civilizations. But we also have the wisdom not to use them. We have learned restraint through painful experience. That makes us different from species who have never faced such choices. She gestured to the Eternal Sentinel beyond the windows. This ship represents our philosophy. Overwhelming capability combined with disciplined restraint. The power to destroy, coupled with the wisdom not to. That is what we offer the Council. Not threats, but partnership. Not aggression, but security. Morvik finally spoke. His voice thoughtful. You said the Eternal Sentinel is a deterrent. But deterrence only works if your enemies believe you would actually use these weapons if pushed. Would you? If humanity were attacked, would you use weapons like the Planet Busters? Captain Park's expression became grave. If humanity faced extinction, if our worlds were being destroyed and our people were being slaughtered, would we use every weapon at our disposal to survive? Yes, absolutely, without hesitation. But that is the point, Security Chief. We are making certain that no one ever pushes us to that extreme. We are making certain that everyone understands that attacking humanity would be so costly, so destructive, so futile, that it is never worth attempting. Mutual assured destruction, Thelvax said quietly, recognizing the concept. An old strategy that works, Commander Chen agreed. When everyone understands that war leads to unacceptable losses for all sides, war becomes unthinkable. Peace becomes the only rational choice. Captain Park walked to Thelvax. Ambassador, you will return to the Council and report what you have seen. Some will call for war against humanity. I ask that you counsel peace instead, not because humanity is weak or because we would surrender, but because war between our civilizations would benefit no one. It would cost millions of lives and achieve nothing. And if the Council decides that humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to exist, Thelvax asked, then they will learn the same lesson the Krell learned, Captain Park said flatly. That humanity will not go quietly into extinction, that we will fight with everything we have, and that the cost of destroying us would be catastrophic for everyone involved. She softened slightly. But I do not believe the Council will make that choice. I believe they will choose wisdom over fear. I believe they will choose partnership over conflict. That is why we showed you all of this. That is why we have been transparent. We want the Council to make an informed decision based on reality, not assumptions. Thelvax stood and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting he had learned. Captain Park, I will report honestly to the Council. I will tell them what I have seen. I will counsel them, as you suggest. But I cannot promise what they will decide. Captain Park took his hand. That is all we ask, Ambassador. Honesty and open communication. The rest is up to our leaders to decide. As the delegation prepared to leave, Thelvax had one final question. Captain, those ships I see in the distance, how many are there? Why? Captain Park smiled slightly. Enough, Ambassador. That is all you need to know. Enough to ensure that humanity can defend itself against any threat. The delegation returned to their shuttle. As they lifted off from the Eternal Sentinel, Thelvax looked back at the massive warship. It hung in space like a sleeping giant. Powerful, patient, waiting. Ambassador, Pell said quietly. My sensors detected something as we departed. There are more human ships than we saw. Many more. They were using stealth technology. We were surrounded by at least 50 warships the entire time we were here. Morvik growled. They were watching us, making sure we understood. Making sure we were safe, Thelvax corrected. Or making sure we could not leave if things went wrong. Perhaps both. As the shuttle approached the harmonious accord, Captain Park's voice came through the communication system one final time. Ambassador Thelvax. We hope this has been the beginning of a long and peaceful relationship between humanity and the Council. Welcome to the new galactic order. We hope you will help shape it with us. The communication ended. Thelvax sat in silence as his shuttle docked with his ship. He had come to evaluate a primitive species. Instead, he had found something unprecedented, a civilization that had built power beyond anything the Council had imagined. A civilization that combined technological sophistication with hard-learned wisdom. A civilization that was ready to defend itself, but hoped never to need to. When he made his report to the Council, Thelvax would have much to say. But one thing was certain. Humanity had changed the galactic order forever. The only question now was whether the Council would accept that change peacefully, or whether they would have to learn the same lessons humanity had already learned the hard way. Thelvax suspected he knew which option Captain Park hoped they would choose. He suspected he knew which option was wisest. He just hoped the Council would be wise enough to choose it.